Hi guys, well here we are on day 12 of the recovery journey, and yesterday I'd mentioned that I was on about a 3 to 3.5 on the vitality monitor, as I'm calling it, as I had a bit of a downturn yesterday. Today we've had a bit of a pickup, and I suppose I'm about 4 to 4.5 today, so fortunately we're heading in the right direction again. So this, what I'm sharing today is quite challenging, to put it mildly. Recently I'd mentioned about something which I'd had difficulty in finding the answers to, and that was in relation to differences I'd noticed in my thinking from very early on. And I'd mentioned in my previous videos that I had slowly come to the conclusion that there was likely a particular reason for that, probably along the lines of having ADHD or possibly being on the autistic spectrum. And if I'm honest, it probably is on the autistic spectrum is where I feel most aligned with, and there's obviously sometimes you can have both at the same time. And so these are the things which I have not really understood over my life, but knowing that there was things I found very, very challenging and more difficult than everyone around me, it seemed. And so today what I want to really talk about is the two main aspects that I found difficult and how they had affected me growing up and into adulthood. So here's the two main things I discovered when I was younger. The first was with regards to social interactions. When I was younger, quite often, and I was in a social environment, I didn't feel inclination to say anything to anyone or to start up conversation. I didn't have any interest in it. There was nothing that I wanted to say to people. Now I noticed that was quite a difference from those around me, because everyone else seemed to have no problem being chatty and interacting with each other. And the difference was so noticeable to me that I eventually developed a belief about myself that there was something weird about me. I felt I was too quiet, was the way I put it, and the way I thought of myself over the years, that I had been too quiet and somehow was socially different or insufficient from everyone else. The second thing was that I think I had problems following instructions or processing instructions early on, and it resulted in at times having responses to that on quite a negative scale or negative nature, which again resulted in me feeling that there was something different about the way I thought. Now, this is difficult for me to say, but I'm just going to come out and say it, because this is all about keeping it real and being brutally honest on my journey to where I'm going. But I developed a belief that my intellect or intelligence was in some kind of deficit. I sort of developed a belief that I was stupid. And now that I realise that, it makes me understand why my confidence was so low growing up. So as I mentioned in some of the previous videos, the result of feeling different from those around us is that we quite often get into the habit of masking, and that is that we feel we've got to meld with the rest of those around us to try to make ourselves appear the same as those. I'm going to mention something that I'm not going to go down the road of, but just as a side note, and that is regarding anxiety. That is that I've discovered through my own research and understanding myself that quite often anxiety comes from the fact that there's something about ourselves that we fear other people finding out. And the anxiety comes from the fact that we fear being exposed, and that the result of that exposure will result in certain rejection and disapproval and the feelings that go along with that. And quite often that is our greatest fear, is to be rejected by others. So what we do is we quite often live in this state where we are continually trying to put across to others the impression that we are not struggling with these things underneath, and we want to try to keep up appearances with that, and that's quite often where anxiety comes from. And so I have experienced depression, as I said before, and quite a lot of anxiety over the years. And this that I'm going through now, and this exposure of this problem in a public place like YouTube, it's part of laying the foundations for my life, part of recovery, because when we begin to unmask ourselves, then we become to rid ourselves of the cause of the anxiety in the first place. And so I'm not going to go too much further with this, but that's quite a long video as it is, and I'll not spend too much more on it. But that really was the cause of a lot of my confidence issues growing up. And it's now then beginning to piece those things together. And so in the next few videos, I'll unpack that a bit and talk a little bit more about the practical application and effects of those kinds of feelings and that kind of masking. And we'll continue on with this, and I hope you've enjoyed this today, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 13. All the best, bye-bye.